I need you guys to take to the comment section right now and answer this question. Say LeBron James and the Lakers make it to the NBA Finals. You have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond, Dennis Schroeder, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope as your starting five, facing off against the Brooklyn Nets, which is Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, and DeAndre Jordan. Which starting five are you taking? And then bear in mind, the Brooklyn Nets still have Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge coming off of the bench, whereas the Los Angeles Lakers have Montrezl Harrell, Talon Horton-Tucker, and Kyle Kuzma and Markieff Morris coming off of the bench. Take a moment, let me know in the comment section down below, which team do you think is the most likely to potentially win a best of 7 series in a hypothetical NBA Finals matchup, say if both of these teams were to make it to the NBA Finals, because in my experience, typically the two teams that are the most favored to make it to the NBA Finals typically don't. But in this case, let me know. And while you're doing that, I just wanted to let you guys know our first official episode of Laced Up featuring myself, Get Like Coop, and Mike Horzemba is going to be uploaded in 2 days from now. So if you want to hear all three of us discuss what we thought went down during the trade deadline, what I think about this Andre Drummond signing, and also get checked by 2 non-Laker fans as I do it, I highly recommend going over to that channel, subscribing, and turning on my notifications for it, because if you subscribe and turn on your notifications for Laced Up, you also would enter for a chance to win a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. We're running the exact same giveaway for those that decide to go to my Instagram and follow me and turn on my notifications there. And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, do you remember a couple of months ago when I told you that the buyout market might be the craziest it has ever been in the NBA in years because of the potential buyouts of Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, and if it happens, Andre Drummond? At the time, I told you guys that Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge were probably the most obvious players to get bought out eventually because their contracts were 1-year max contracts, and both of their productions weren't good enough to justify potentially trading them to another team. I didn't see a world where another team would even try to engage the San Antonio Spurs on LaMarcus Aldridge, or even the Detroit Pistons on Blake Griffin because he was performing so horribly. Well, we literally saw all 3 of these players switch teams in a matter of 2 weeks, starting with Blake Griffin going to the Brooklyn Nets, which we already thought was absolutely insane when he was bought out by the Detroit Pistons. Eventually, we saw yesterday LaMarcus Aldridge completely melted the internet and kind of melted my brain as well when he came out and announced that he was signing with the Brooklyn Nets as well. And today we're going to have some breaking news in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, before we get to that, I want to let you know that the Milwaukee Bucks also decided to make a move themselves. Austin Rivers got cut by the OKC Thunder, and now the Milwaukee Bucks are currently, at the time of this video, according to Champ Charania, the Bucks are the leaders to sign Austin Rivers upon clearing waivers, and that's sources telling The Athletic and the Stadium. There's strong mutual interest in both sides. That makes a lot of sense. The Milwaukee Bucks could use as much guard depth as they possibly can coming off of the bench. Austin Rivers is an ideal fit for the Bucks because he could give them quick scoring off of the bench. Now, moving on to today's breaking news. We just got word that, and honestly, I kind of knew this yesterday. I was very tempted to make this video yesterday ahead of time, but this instance, I like taking my time, maybe being a little bit late just so I can make sure I get the news right, because historically there have been times where I rushed news out, and as a result, I ended up getting the news wrong. Adrian Wojnarowski announced that once Andre Drummond clears waivers at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, he intends to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers, his agent Jeff Schwartz of XL Basketball tells ESPN, which means unless some team decides to pay Andre Drummond the amount he wants for the rest of the year, the amount the Cavs were originally paying him for the rest of the year, he's going to be a Los Angeles Laker. So you could pretty much take this as Andre Drummond is going to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers as soon as he clears waivers at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As a Laker fan, I find this to be very exciting because I don't remember the last time the Los Angeles Lakers got a starting caliber player that is also a former All-Star, just simply from the buyout market. And typically, you guys have to understand, none of this is normal. You don't see players like Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge and Andre Drummond literally just hit the buyout market and then latch on with contenders in the middle of the NBA season. This doesn't happen regularly. As a matter of fact, I can't remember the last time something like this has happened. And although I do acknowledge that LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin are no longer the stars that they once were, I do understand that the San Antonio Spurs looked at LaMarcus Aldridge and said, hey, maybe we should start Jakob Poeltl instead of him. It's still really fascinating because Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge are literally 2 years removed from their last All-Star appearance. Blake Griffin's 32 years old. LaMarcus Aldridge is 35 years old. He's a 7-time All-Star and was a All-NBA second-team player in just 2018. And then you have Andre Drummond, who I believe his situation and his scenario is by far the most fascinating out of every single player on this list, because Andre Drummond was an All-Star in 2018. He was a 4-time NBA rebounding leader. As a matter of fact, over the last 3 years, he led the NBA in rebounding. And despite that, the Cleveland Cavaliers still couldn't find a suitor that was willing to take on his contract for the rest of the year and was even willing to give up a second-round pick just to trade for him. And as a result, he ended up getting bought out and got to play the free agent market a little bit, taking meetings with the Charlotte Hornets, Los Angeles Clippers, Los Angeles Lakers, and the Boston Celtics before signing with the Lakers. And if you ask me, my biases aside, I believe this was the best move for him, and this is why. Whether this is just a quick pit stop because he's always wanted to play with LeBron James, he has familiarity with Markieff Morris and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, or if this is a situation that he wants to find himself a little bit more long-term, which I highly doubt, by the way. Playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, being LeBron James's traditional center who you catch lobs from, typically does end up well for a player's career. Look at Dwight Howard. Yeah, he's not necessarily putting in work with the Philadelphia 76ers, but this is a guy that literally was on his way out of the NBA before the Los Angeles Lakers took a flyer on him. Now, yeah, I understand he's not performing well with the Philadelphia 76ers, but it did prolong his career a little bit. And as a matter of fact, Dwight Howard did want to return to play with the Los Angeles Lakers before he found out that the Lakers had other plans. So this is an interesting scenario. Andre Drummond's 27 years old. He is supposed to be in the prime of his career, yet advanced analytics don't favor him. And on top of that, despite having very good basic statistics, most teams aren't interested in maxing out Andre Drummond. However, I feel like playing in a large market like the Los Angeles Lakers, making a deep playoff run with the Lakers, and being the interior force that they need on the defensive end and on the offensive end, which is something that the Lakers have been desperately missing after moving on from JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, will potentially get him that contract that he craves over the summer. Now, I doubt that it's going to be a maximum contract, but I still think he will get a good contract from a team coming this summer after this brief stint with the Lakers. If you're a Laker fan, be realistic with yourself. This is a piece that you guys desperately needed, but I'm honestly viewing this as a brief rental before Andre Drummond decides to move on to another team this offseason once his value gets pumped up a little bit. He's no longer on a small market like the Detroit Pistons that isn't contending, same with the Cleveland Cavaliers. All eyes are going to be on him and his effect on the Lakers during this playoff run, and that's why I think this is a home run for not only the Los Angeles Lakers, but also for Andre Drummond. This should potentially revitalize his value as a player, especially if he's an important piece of a championship contending team. So let me know in the comment section down below, if the Lakers and Nets make it to an NBA Finals series, who do you think would win? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.